What's up, guys? It's Project, and oh snap, sit down, take a breather. We finally have gotten a full hunt in Monster Hunter WARUDO! Capcom just finished their presentation they announced on the 20th and basically demoed a live hunt, which is basically what people saw at E3. However, it's not garbage quality like the leak. Not the best either, as it's not a direct feed and has lots of compression. However, it's much better to watch and fully shows that this is, yes, just like any other Monster Hunter game, except with a lot of changes to move and evolve the series beyond the norm. And a lot of these improvements excite me for the franchise. Hopefully they do for you too. So this could potentially be the best Monster Hunter yet. Unfortunately, the stream was entirely Japanese commentary with no English subtitles, but I guess since they showed it during E3 for the West, this stream was basically aimed to show their Japan audience the game in greater detail, so that's why. I don't speak Japanese or understand the language outside of weeb anime one-liners, so I can't detract any info that's not immediately getting posted on message boards and stuff. I'm sure there'll be more info out about the commentary later, but from what I'm getting from no immediate reaction to anything they said, there doesn't seem to be much new info that concerns the West. They have confirmed no additional fees will be put in place, so as long as you have PlayStation Plus, you're good to go, as console or PC Monster Hunters in Japan usually had a subscription type Final Fantasy 14 thing going on, but that's not the case for this title, so good for them and getting them to get on board on the PS4. A thing to note is they showed the original reveal trailer again. However, at the end of it, they only showed PS4 and PS4 Pro logos, so if this is what I think it means, that means it's PS4 exclusive in Japan. That might change since PC is coming later down the line anyways, but considering cross-region play, West and Japanese PS4 owners will be able to play with each other, so PS4 will have the biggest community out the gate, most likely than the other systems. But enough talking about that, let's move on to covering the gameplay shown. Right at the bat, we arrive in what's known as a base camp, which is a mini hub and a mission where you can rest, swap gear, deliver items, and presumably more. They introduced our first NPC in the game, which is this girl here, supposedly a guild marm of sorts, or a guide in other words. She's the main person helping you during what seems to be a tutorial aspect of the mission, though I'm sure this hunt isn't going to be the actual first thing you play. We get voice work as mentioned in my previous video, though they have confirmed you can replace the voice work with standard Mon-Hun gibberish. Her mouth is not synced up to the Japanese voiceover, leading me to believe that her mouth is synced for the English voiceover, which is usually the opposite of the norm for any Japanese games. Or it could be that they don't know how to animate. After talking with her, the player pulls up the map, which we see for the first time, which is an actual shortcut that takes up the player's screen, displaying what seems to look like a termite nest inner workings. Seriously, this is pretty complex looking map. Lots of paths and details. As you can see, the map is sectioned off into zones of sorts, separated by those golden lines, probably just for easier referencing locations of monsters to teammates, like,
"Where are you guys at?"
We're in Zone 7.
Oh, okay.
That's most likely the reason for that. Later on in the demo, they demonstrated the fast travel aspect, allowing you to travel back to camp when not engaged in combat. The player then goes into a tent of sorts at the camp, where we finally see our little palico buddies, felines that live alongside humans in this game, and in many cases help them in hunts and various stuff. Oh, just look at him, his wee little mittens. A very comfy looking tent. This is where players will change gear as the player changed from a greatsword to a longsword, a different weapon class. The weapon equip is also displayed resting against a wall in the background for cool display purposes. The equipment box also confirms all 14 weapon classes, as I mentioned in my last video, along with Kinsect, a secondary function for the Insect Glaive weapon class. No new weapons it seems though. The player also switched to a longsword that's made from Rathalos parts in past games called Wyvern Fire, so this mission and players are definitely later in the game. You can also change mantles, a new feature for this game, which are cloaks that give different abilities like stealth, or a mantle that attracts large monsters to target you. These have a cooldown but allow expanded options for hunts. Then lastly, for this part of the video, the player turns to our cute Neko buddy and shows them off in greater detail and the ability to change their palico gear as well. Really cool. Moving on to environments, they showed off how gorgeous and diverse the environment is. Considering this is just one map, seamless throughout the entirety of it with no load screens, I think they did a hell of a job with this first one shown. There's also a day and night cycle for even more scenic diversity. The environment itself is also a ton more interactive than past games, with many hazards and stuff you can use to your advantage. Of course, this is all extra layered stuff and not required to take down monsters, but it sure gives its benefits for strategizing and coordinating your hunts with your friends. The environment in Monster Hunter games are live, made shown by the animal inhabitants themselves. With worlds, they cranked it up to 10. Here they show the second new large monster, a great jaguarus, preying and eventually engulfing an Aptonoth, a herbivore creature, whole, like a snake. Jeez. Immediately from this scene, you notice that the monster didn't aggro immediately to the player's presence like past games. This is due to a new AI system that makes non-aggressive monsters ignore the player until threatened, but go about their usual lives, feeding and moving around like a real animal would. Shown here, the demonstrators held back the urge to slap it in the face and watch it go about. The jaguarus took its meal back to its cave where its young were and regurgitated its fresh meal. Ugh. For Din Din times for the kids. Aw, such a good parent. This is very weird in Planet Earth type stuff, so it's very cool that we get to see this become a reality. I'm excited to see how each monster is designed and acts differently with this. There's lots of details and stuff that I already covered in my last video, so check that out. Also check out the full Capcom stream in the description if you want to watch the full thing. But we all came here for one thing and one thing only, combat. And boy did we get our fill. We got tons of combat, an extensive showing of multiple weapons and multiplayer, and just what Monster Hunter is all about. Teaming up and having a dang good time taking down epic beasts in epic ways. That core couldn't be more transparent in this showing. If you had any doubts, they should be no more. And if you still do,
what's wrong with you?
But seriously, the combat was so good. Before diving into weapons and core combat, let's take a look at some minor mechanical changes. There seems to be multiple potions like usual, not what I hoped for, but it is seen here with the new radio system for selecting and using items. You see 2 potion icon symbols, so assuming one is a standard potion and the other is a mega potion, they heal a fixed set amount of life over time. Some other items can be seen as well, like barrel bombs and a shock trap, standard fare. Also confirmed you can switch items like past games using L2 and R2. You don't have to use the new radio system using the right thumbstick. This seems to be a reoccurring theme with this game, adding new stuff but also options to feel like older games, which is good. It keeps old players from jumping off a cliff as well as bringing new stuff that could appeal to more people, and maybe even swaying longtime fans to like the new systems more. Shortly, to cover mounting and maneuvering an environment, you seem to only be able to use the grappling hook at certain points and at certain times. You can't just hook any tree and climb it. You can't just spam hook monsters. Similarly for monsters, it seems to only really be used for getting back onto a monster when tossed off. The initial amount is usually by using the environment. Of course, there's always insect glaive to spam on monsters to mount, but we'll see how they balance that whole thing. One thing to know is when mounting a monster, you can move on to different locations of a monster like Dragon's Dogma. This is mainly to get to a certain point to perhaps break it, or to avoid getting slammed, as monsters will slam individual parts of the body on the ground and various objects to get you off. Button prompts now show up to stay on the monster when it starts thrashing. It doesn't seem to be a 10-second wild cowboy ride like for you or Generations, but rather burst of 1 to 2 second scarefest. A white ring appears around your map, and the smaller it gets, or thinner I guess, the closer you are to downing the monster. It turns red when the monster is trying to fling you off, and you use your actual main weapon for the final blow to topple the monster down. There also seems to be some indicator of health on a monster, seen very tiny as a heartbeat of sorts under 3 icons, likely icons of the large monsters possible to find in the area. When the monster is healthier, its heartbeat peaks are bigger, but when it's lower on health, they'll be smaller until eventually. So this is most likely specifically for capturing or knowing when a monster is close to dying. It's not exactly a health bar, so don't scream yet. And monsters still show a sign of weakness and fatigue, but it's still there. Whether or not it can be turned off, I don't know. It's not a health bar for knowing exactly the monster's health, and it's so puny I doubt most people would pay attention to it outside of capturing, so it's not a big deal in my opinion. They demonstrated the hunt against Anjanath, the main new large monster they've shown. They had encounters with Rathalos as well, which is the poster boy of the franchise. Honestly, he looks amazing in this. Animations, the updated textures and model, everything looks dreamlike. We're still gonna bully him, but at least he looks intimidating somewhat. Not much to really cover on the monsters themselves. Footage speaks for itself. I'll make detailed guides on their movesets and how to tackle them when the game actually comes out, so there's no point in talking about it here. As I mentioned in my last video, monsters can now hit and actually actively fight each other if they encounter a threat or prey, which is either you or another monster. They have unique interactions and animations for this, mostly ignoring the player if the player doesn't hit them. Very cool and natural. However, there has been concern over this mechanic and whether it will detract from the point of hunting monsters, since now you can decide to meddle and split them up like a bad bar fight, or bust out a spit roast and
let them fight.
I'm sure you can do the latter, but this will only really happen when monsters are led to another's territory, which they purposely did for the demo. So I don't think most hunts will go this way. You might not even face more than 3 monsters a map. Perhaps it starts off as 1 and then 2 and then builds its way up, so it's going to get more chaotic anyways. And they can even do something cool and make a new pair of monsters that only targets you and not each other. Such as Raytheon or Rathalos don't fight since they're a pair of sorts, a couple, meaning it'll be classic 2v1. I doubt they'd be crazy enough to do 3v1, right? Well, we have to wait and see more. I'm sure it'll all be fun in the end. I will say I've taken a big liking to Anjanath. The way he moves in the environment and the size and scope of him is great, and despite his modest design, he really fits this map great visually, so it looks like a fun hunt for sure. Though a few times in the demo, Jan did stop working. He froze in place for a couple times in the demo. Hopefully they fix that by release. Still lots of clipping on the monsters as well, but kind of expected. More so now with all the added 3Dness of the map compared to past games where it's mostly just blocky objects. I kind of want some of that silly stuff in, can lead to some janky but funny moments. And lastly, covering weapons and general combat. Combat looks amazing, looks fast, fluid, and fun. Not to the extent of Monster Hunter Cross or Generations, but that's a good thing. Some returning moves got reworked, but there's also some new finisher moves at the end of combos. A lot of them look slick. Think Monster Hunter Cross arts, but guild style combat for everything. No aerial or depth craziness. What impressed me were heavy bowgun and bow. They actually look like something I want to play for once. Fast, actiony, and epic, but still serving the purpose of being ranged and positioning yourself right. Heavy bowgun is not a Gatling gun, though there is an ammo type or a special move that allows for a daka 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 daka. But they also changed ammo types to a cluster bomb of sorts, and even a shotgun ammo type. Looks insanely fun and active. Bow is the same thing. The shots look fast and powerful, especially with the charges. Both classes are much more agile now, and you can move while shooting now, which is a lovely change in my opinion. Hopefully they scale down on ammo types so you don't have to change as much and make it easier to equip and buy ammo. It was always too much micromanaging from my experience in past games, so hopefully they deal with that. For melee weapons, they showed greatsword, longsword, spear, and my main, hammer. Let's talk hammer. It looks heavy, powerful. We still have the golf swing for knocking Raph's brains out, and they even gave it 2 super moves of sorts that swings you like a tornado for a split second of heavy momentum damage, and one that does a multi-hit spin sideways after jumping off a slanted terrain. Looked orgasmic. Can't wait to play it. Greatsword also got a new move that swings multiple times after a charge, while Longsword has some kind of poke after the usual slash combo that when landed allows them to jump high in the air and slash downward hard for big damage. Doesn't seem like you can change the angle mid-air when doing it though, so timing will be key. Spear had the standard pokes, but you can also hop forward now when guarding instead of just back. And yeah, just generally showed epic Monster Hunter gameplay we all know and love. The demo ended with the team finally taking down the Anjanath, the target monster, after 23 minutes, showing another staple of the franchise, carving the monster for its parts. Seems about the same speed as Generations. They all stayed down, hunkered down, carving. You didn't have to get up and go back down. They just stayed down, carving non-stop. Maybe a wee bit faster than that. And they showed the quest complete and reward screen, which is also updated and looks very sleek and modern. I like it a lot. And that, my fellow hunters, concludes the demonstration. They then jobbered on in Japanese for the rest, but just getting that full hunt from start to finish was all I needed to feel completely satisfied and confident the game will do well, not just critically, but sales-wise. I think 4 million sales seems like an achievable goal worldwide, considering all the systems it's coming out on and the reception shown. No Grand Theft Auto numbers, but I think 4 million is enough to warrant a sequel, given they won't just abandon the 4 years of work they put into this game based off one game's success. They have my money at least. I can't wait to play it. But that's all for this video. Hopefully you found this video entertaining and informative and hype inducing. Let me know what you guys think, and if it changed anyone's minds on getting the game, what weapon would you want to see shown next? I'm a switch axe baby, so I want my other main shown off in a cool and epic way. Sound off in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. Lets me know if you enjoyed the video, obviously, and if I should be continuing doing this more. And of course, subscribe for more Mon Hunt epicness.